by Nikki. I'm here today with part 4. I had to think about it for a second. Part 4 of my hand lettering hacks videos, where I am showing you just a few of the tips and tricks that I use to do some interesting looking lettering in my journals. I, again, put this disclaimer in front of each one of them. I'm not an expert. I am not a professional hand letterer. These are just hacks. They are tricks and tips that I do. In our first one, we learned about thickening the downstroke and getting used to our own handwriting. In the second one, we created a post, filled some stuff in, made some cool looking serifs, learned about what serifs were and made some cool looking serifs. Then last time we changed the center. We talked about some ways to add interest by doing some different things to our lettering. If you are interested in those videos and haven't seen them, I will have a playlist of all of these videos on my channel, so you can go there and see the rest of these. Today, we are going to talk about bubble letters, some ways to make easy bubble letters and then big fat bubble letters. For people that have a challenging time imagining how to make that work, this is going to be an easy way to do that. So today, the first thing we'll do is talk about easy bubble letters. I have my supplies over here. We're going to need a pencil and then some sort of marker. I don't care what color or anything. Black is just easiest when you're practicing because it's, you know, pretty clear and to see what you're doing. I am using a Pigma Micron. The size I am using is an 08, which is one of the larger nibs. And then I also have with me my Sharpie that is the regular size Sharpie nib on one side and a fine nib on the other. And I have this because it makes it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. We are going to use our pencil quite a bit today because I will tell you what, this was one of the things when I kind of figured these tricks out. I was like, this makes way more sense to me because I used to have a really hard time envisioning how to make, you know, I would go to, so if I wanted to write easy, I would start trying to make my letters like this, and I would end up with fatter here and skinnier here and a sharper edge here and bubbly squirrel, and I just never really liked the way it looked. And then the next one would look totally different and none of them would look consistent, which in some ways is okay. You know, it really depends on what you like, but I didn't like the way that that looked. So when I decided that if I wanted to make something a little more uniform looking, if I was going to write the title at the top of a journal entry, or if I was addressing an envelope and I wanted to make, you know, the name look cool and then regular writing underneath, that I wanted it to be a little more uniform. So here was the trick that I taught myself that I kind of figured out. First of all, if you want this paper that I'm using right here, it is a free download from the website that I will have linked in the description box down underneath. Skip all of the, there's a bunch of little, when you click on the link and you go there to the website, it's just a really basic website. There are a whole bunch of little things that you can change widths and heights and all that sort of stuff. If you just leave all of those alone and go to the very bottom and say, get paper, this is what you'll get. It's a nice guide to practice your letters on. Right? So that's what I'm using. Today, I'm going to show you how I do my easy bubble letters. So we've got our heavier top line here and our bottom line here, right? And I'm going to be working in between those. Now, I'm going to highlight my top and bottom line because this is kind of important. I'm just going to very carefully with my Pigma here. There, so you've got your top and your bottom of like kind of where your visual field of where you're trying to write. With my pencil, because you can erase it, that's why the pencil, I'm going to say, I want to write, I'm writing an address on an envelope and I want to write Nikki Adigan. I'm going to go in between the lines, not all the way to the top and bottom of the line. I'm going to go in between and keep it short. And I'll show you this in a minute. And give yourself some space in between them. because we're going to make bubbles around this. Well, let's just do Nikki. Okay, so I'm not going all the way to the top or the bottom, and I'm giving myself some space around, okay? And I've written it a little bit darker in pencil. Usually I would just kind of barely sketch it in as light as I can, right? Because then it's easier to erase and it doesn't, you know, leave the mark in like when you write hard. Excuse me. You know what I mean? When you press a pencil down hard and then erase it, it still leaves the mark. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is try to go as evenly as possible around each letter, just like I'm outlining it. So I'll show you what I'm doing here first. And in order to avoid a hard corner like this, right, where I started at the top, I'm going to start in the middle. So if I were doing that E again, so say this was my pencil mark here, right, I would start here. Because then, instead of having that hard corner, I started here so I could come around this end and that end, right? And then I'd erase the pencil in the middle. So let's do the Nikki. So I'm going to start in the middle of my end line. And then I'm going to try and just imagine that I'm maintaining about the same distance away from my pencil mark the entire time I go. Kind of just imagining I'm staying about that same distance away. And then basically, however you wrote your letters, if you trace exactly around them like this, that's what your bubble letters will look like. So now we've got bubble letters saying Nikki, right? Because I just traced around. Can you see that? The pencil marks. Now, if you were going to color them in with different things, if it went over the pencil, that'd be fine. Make sure you let your marker dry or whatever you're working with first, and then go in and erase your pencil marks. And it looks like you just did really well, nice, even looking, you know, fairly even looking bubble letters on your own. I seriously could not freehand that. I don't know why. There's just a thing in my head that does not allow me to do that. So again, let's say that I'm going to write my last name in. But if I don't have those lines, right, I'm just kind of imagining. So I'm going to write my last name. And I'm going to stay away from the bottom line and the top line, because as I go around, that's why you have to write your letters smaller, because as you go around them, you'll complete to the top and the bottom. Does that make sense? So, or, you know, you don't have to keep them in a nice even line. Say you just kind of wanted something fun at the top of a journal entry or something. Or say today your journal entry was about, you know, peace. You were having a peaceful day. So you want to write kind of the word peace in bubble letters, and you want to just kind of float it around wherever, the top of your journal entry for the day. Okay, so now I have very lightly, can you see it? Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to go around, and again, I'm going to imagine I'm keeping about the same distance . Woo, windy. Can you guys hear that wind? Shaking my mini blinds. Oh, see, I forgot to start halfway down on that line. I was able to save it though. Now on one where there's, oops, on one like this where there's the middle part, you just kind of go around the middle part too, like that. And there we go. Now we have, I didn't do the best spacing there, but here you go with the letters. You've got your bubble letters, right? And now if you employ some of the tricks that we've done before where you raise or lower, change the center, right? So if you wanted to write peace, but you wanted to make it look different, oops. So here we've changed the center and we've put the letters up to the top. I will just go around those really quick, employing the same basic principle. And now we have used the change the center thing and made bubble letters that are tall and skinny, right? And have a higher center here. So you can do all kinds of lettering with this. It's just a way that I have found to make more consistent bubble letters because I have a hard time visualizing and making mine look any sort of consistent if you're interested in doing more consistent bubble letters. And this is me going really fast around these letters. If I were to spend a little bit more time to really trace the lines a little bit closer, it would make it even more consistent looking. Although I often like kind of an organic feel to my lettering anyway. Another way to do it, as I have done here, this is another style. It just creates a different kind of look. And that's where you write your word. So let's say today we are going to talk about, well, we'll just do peace again, right? So we write in your marker right away your word. So I'm obviously doing a high center here. Wasn't planning on doing that, but I'm doing it. So let's do it that way. So we've got our word, just a regular piece, right? And then you're going to kind of create your bubbles just off of the letters as you go. It's not technically like a bubble letter where there's, you know, you're going to have lines crossing each other, but it's just kind of a different way to make some bubbly looking stuff. So I just kind of look at my letter and go, well, the P obviously on that back side. And then this part, I'll just fill in the inside. Right? I'm just kind of filling in. The E, I'll go off the back side here. And then this one, I'll just go up. And this one I'll fill in. And this one will come down. There's my E. Right? So I'm just kind of making bubbles off of the letters themselves. I'm going to go the same way off the A. And then I'll go across there. The C will just be kind of the same as a regular C would be. And the E is the other one that's the same as the other E that I did. So there you go. Another way to kind of just add some bubbly looking stuff, right, on your letters. All right, now let's talk about how I do these big fat overlapping ones. And these are basically the same by writing my word with a pencil and then drawing around it. The difference is here we have them overlapping, whereas here they were not. So you can use this trick to make big fat ones that overlap like this, or you could overlap the skinnier ones too. It's just easier to kind of do it with that big fat look to it. So you can see here the pencil marks on, can you? Yeah, big fat. Then this one, I've erased them and I've done some little scribble shadow. So I'll show you that too. So let's say we want to write hello. In like, we want to write that big across the top of our paper that we're working on. So I'm going to, with my pencil, and I'm pushing really hard right now. Definitely don't want to push too hard. Whoops, I'm pressing so hard that I'm breaking my lead. Because it's easier to erase, you know, lighter marks. Now, another thing that I do when I do this font is I make some letters go this way, I slant some letters this way, I make some go straight. I kind of mix it up as I go because that kind of makes it look real, I just don't, it's kind of the way it just makes it look cool. So I've got my H for my hello. And then right up next to it, now I don't need to overlap these letters that I'm penciling out because by the time we trace big around them, it will naturally overlap. So I'm going to put my E down here and angle it a little bit different. Then one L straight up here and another L really slanted here and broke my lead again. And then my O at the end. So there we go. I have my penciled in letters, right? Because now you imagine we're going to make those big around them. So I'm going to use my Pigma again. And what I'm going to do is, instead of before where we were following really close into the pencil marks like this, I'm going to try and really exaggerate, you know, in the middles of the H here, I'm going to make it really tight and small like that. And then come up over the top of everything and really make it fat. And then I'll come down. Now I don't care if I'm going over this H, or the E there, because we'll address that as we layer. So there's my H, right? I took that skinny H that I had initially written and made it into a huge poofy one. I am using straight lines here because, you know, that's how I like to do this font. You could definitely be rounding off edges too. Make it your own. Now the E, what we're going to do is, that's going to be layered, right? So if we followed around the E, we'd have lines going through each other and it would get really confusing. What we want is them to go beneath each other. So the E, I'm going to start my E line. I should make it so you can see better. Let's see. I'll put it in this gold here maybe, huh? So that's my E. Now you can see that a little better, right? See how it's overlapping this H here, and we don't want it to, we don't want to just go around the E. So I'm gonna go, here's my end of my E. And again, remember we're making fat. And I'll come in. So none of these parts are overlapping the H. And I'm going to go back around. But then as I come up, I'll just stop where the H is, right? And as I come across with this one, I go, would it go all the way over? Match up my line. I just kind of eyeball it and come down here. So my E, now if I could erase the gold, would be behind my H. Let's keep going. Here's my L, right? So again, I'm going to go with the part that I know already is not overlapping, because that's the easiest part to do. I'm going to come across here. This is going to come across the top. Now, when I come down, I'm going to hit this E. So I just stop where I hit it. And then I kind of, in my mind, trace the line down. Oh, it would start again here. And then I hit the E again here. So there's my L, right? Now I'll do the same thing. I'm going to tilt my paper because I've got this L going this way. And I'm going to start with the side that isn't going to overlap first. So I'm going to start with this side over here. And just we're thinking really big, exaggerated fat lettering around those. And I'll come across here. And I'm kind of trying to make this L match this L. But if it doesn't, you know, if the stem is a little too thick or something, it's no big deal. Then I'm going to draw down again. So I'm coming down and I hit that L. Then I kind of in my head follow that line until it comes out the other side. and finish the letter. And then lastly, we have the O. So I'm going to start with a tiny little circle in the middle because we're going fat, right? And then for the O, because there's not really an edge, I'm just going to start where I know I would, you know, here's the circle. So I'm coming out like an inch from it, starting there, and just tracing it around until I hit the L again. And then I would go like this. That would complete it right there. So I don't have to worry about anything else anywhere else. Now, the last thing you do is, I can't erase that E that I wrote in gold, but I can erase these. And I mean, you can do these on a much smaller scale too, right? You don't have to do them humongous like I'm doing here. I'm just doing them big so that it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. And my pencil marks aren't going to erase all the way because I wrote so heavy so that you guys can see what I was doing. But you get the picture. Okay, so there's my word hello. Now I've got this big jumbo fat lettering that says hello, and it was way easier for me to visualize this because I had the pencil marks there rather than trying to do it myself, because if I do it on my own, I usually start with a letter the size I want, and then they get huger and huger or smaller and smaller, and then I try to correct and then I get too small and it looks dumb. So this is the way that I do to plan it out to make it look the best, to try and keep it a little bit more consistent. Even though, you know, it's really wonky, you still want some consistency to your wonkiness, if that makes sense. This shadow is really easy to do. It's the same kind of thing. Pick where your light is coming from, right? And then you know where, you kind of imagine where the shadow would fall, right? So if the light was coming straight down at your word from the top, your shadows would all be on the bottom side. If your light was coming from the bottom like this, your shadows would all be on the top. Usually for me, it's easiest if I imagine the light coming at an angle like this, right? So then my shadows are all this way. I tilt my paper that way, which helps. So like the light is coming from due north here. And then I just start here and I go, okay, if the light's coming from that direction, then the shadow would be falling back here, and you can do just lines. Like this. Then you just stop when it hits the letter. Right? So where it hits this E, then I just stop shading. Or you can do what I did here, which is more of a scribble. Right, so the light's coming from here. So I'm doing a scribble. And there'd be some along this edge. And there'd be some along this edge. Okay. You can also use, well, I'll just show you the rest of it so it looks a little more consistent. If you do the scribbling, then you just kind of got to imagine where those lines go. Now, this L overlaps this L, so this shading would come all the way across, right? You wouldn't stop here because this one's on top of that one. So there really wouldn't be any shadow here because of the way it's aimed. There'd be a little down here. And then on the O, it would be some on the inside here, and then on the back side here. And there we go. Easy type of shadowing, right? Another way to do it would be to take your any sort of gray pen, and I'll do this one up here. This is my Copic marker. They're expensive, you know, but if you just buy one, they're usually sold individually. At Michael's, I know they do. You can buy them individually. So just buy, this is a kind of a medium gray. It's called Cool Gray. And this is C3, Cool Gray number 3. This one is like my go-to for shading. It's like the perfect shade on white paper. But again, if we're going with this kind of, you know, light coming from this direction, then you just go along those edges. And then be on this side again, be on this side. And under here, a little there, a little on the back side of this G. There'd be some on the back side of this G. Under there and probably under there. So this is a quick way to give some dimension. And even if you don't get the shadows all in the right spots, like it shouldn't have been on this back side here, it doesn't really matter. As long as you get most of them in the right spot, then it adds dimension to your piece. So that's a great way to kind of call that lettering off the page, is by adding some shadow like this, especially to this big fat lettering. I think it's really cute to do it that way. So there are two ways to practice your bubble lettering. Really, it comes down to, if you want to, you know, sketch out your letters, just your basic block letters, and you can do it in cursive too. What do we got? Oh, we've got a few minutes. Let's try it. So I'm going to do hi. I'm just going to write the word hi. Okay. So there we go. There is the word hi written in pencil. The one thing you've got to think about here is where it crosses. Okay. So you just want to go around the outside, just like we did before. And I'm just, again, following the... Did I say you have to think about where it crosses, or do you don't have to think about? I meant you don't have to think about where it crosses like we did before. Because now we've got a bubble letters hi. And you didn't have to think about where it crosses like we did before when we were making space, because you're just tracing around the outside. Then you erase your pencil. So you can do, you know, it's like in my last video, I kept thinking it's Friday. So you can do the day or the date or something at the top of your page. I've done, one of the cool things that I have done in the past that I kind of like doing sometimes is writing a big word like this in the middle of a page. So say this is my, you know, journal page here, or this is my journal page. I will write today. A lot of times if I'm journaling, it's mostly Bible journaling, right? So if, say that I'm writing something about hope, right? I will make my big fat letters. So I'm going to do my big fat letters, and I'll do this part fast because we've already done it. I'll fast forward through this so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so there we have my big letter, bubble letters, hope, right? And I've made them so big on my page that I can actually now go back and do my journaling inside of my giant letters. So I'm going to say, my hope is in the Lord, the author and protector of my faith, right? And then I have this blank spot up here, so I might just fill it in with the word hope again. Right? So you could continue writing inside there. Then when I get to the O, you could switch directions and go this way, kind of as it's angled that way. Or with things like an O, you could say, you know, you could go,
will help.
Now I get here and I'll skip over to here and just keep going around in concentric circles, right? So I'll write this way, and then when I get here, I'll just keep going until all of a sudden I find myself in the middle. So you kind of have to practice timing yourself so you know what you're gonna say gets you to there, and then you can stop. Or you can just continue that thought. So say you're in the middle of a sentence, you know, the lazy brown fox jumped, and then you just start back here on your P, and you can go around this way, back and forth. You can go straight back to straight again like this. So it just provides another kind of creative way for you to write inside of these giant bubble letters, because they kind of make a cool substrate, right? Or if I'm Bible journaling, I might write the Bible verses inside here, and then I will journal about them around the outside of that. You really, I mean, you could write just this in the middle of a letter, and then, you know, write your letter around it if you are so inclined to write Happy Mail or letters. Because how cool would it be if this was in the middle and left open, white open, and your writing starts up here, right? And you write and you write and you write, and it goes, you write and it goes all the way around this thing and down through it, right? And that's in the middle of your page. Just unique ways to use these big bubble letters, or these bubble letters, or any bubble letters, to create unique ways to break up your pages in your journals, to keep you inspired, to keep you going. If you write quotes, you could write a quote in the bubble letters and then write, you know, keep moving around it like this. So honestly, you can, you know, your imagination is the limit. So your assignment today is to get out your pencil and then some sort of, you know, darker marking, even just a regular pen or something, and practice, you know, making some bubble letters. I hope you enjoy that. I hope you found this inspiring or informational, or learned something, or got something out of it, or got a hack out of it, or just enjoyed listening to me chatter away for a half an hour of your day. But thank you so much for joining me for a half hour of your day today. I hope that you're having a wonderful morning, or maybe it's afternoon there, or maybe it's evening, or maybe it's the middle of the night there. Whatever time it is on whatever side of this globe of ours that you live on, I hope that you are having a great day. And until I see you next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless you. Bye-bye.